Inside, Lee feels a rush of excitement. The idea of joining such an elite unit makes his inner fighter jump with joy. But on the surface, he stays calm and collected. His face shows no emotion. His eyes stay fixed on the invitation card, lost in thought. Around him, people whisper and react, each one trying hard to absorb the ongoing situation. Lee reflects. The fame, the pressure, and the possible dangers that may follow all circle in his mind. This moment feels heavy, and it is clear that his life is about to change. Then, Warrant Officer Chan speaks and asks Lee if he's going to make him keep holding this out. Finally, Lee reaches out and accepts the card. His grip tightens, not just on the card, but on the future it represents. His mind is still busy. He realizes that joining this unit might throw him into battles against powerful villain groups. Nothing about this offer is simple. He salutes Chan and says he will think it over. Even then, he feels eyes on him. Someone is watching. And it turns out to be Sanguk, who stands in the distance clearly upset. His expression says it all. The anger in his eyes confirms what Lee feared. This military invitation is already creating enemies. Later, the Warrant Officer Chan visits the battalion commander office. They sit and have a talk over tea. The battalion commander asks about the current state of the Black Tiger unit. The question sounds simple, but the meaning behind it feels deeper. Chan answers plainly. He explains that the unit is short on members right now. Across the table, the commander nods slowly, wearing a forced smile. He talks about how difficult things have become. These days, even C-rank talents are being targeted by guilds. He explains how frustrating it is to train soldiers only for them to be taken away later by other groups, using fancy names like external appointments. Their eyes meet. The mood grows serious. There's no need for words. Both of them know they're on the same battlefield trying to hold on to good talent. The commander laughs. He guesses that Chan came here to recruit Surgeon Choi Youngjun. Chan smiles wide and confirms it with a nod, but then adds that he knows Choi is currently on leave. Another glance passes between them. Both want Choi Youngjun on their side. Then Chan adds something unexpected. He says that during this visit, he found someone else, someone interesting. Chan shares the soldier's name. Just as the commander hears it, he freezes for a second. No words come out. It turns out Chan wants Lee transferred to his unit. Warrant Officer Chan wears a wide grin, clearly proud of what he's just set in motion. Across from him, the battalion commander falls into silence. His eyes stay still, but his thoughts are moving fast. The name Lee keeps echoing in his mind. That single mention has sparked something, and now he can't stop thinking about this new soldier who has just stepped into the spotlight. Later, most of the military base is fast asleep, and in the darkness of the night, Lee is running through the training grounds, his breathing rough and loud. His body is pushed to its limit. Suddenly, Park Jumbo calls him from behind. He's shouting out to Lee, chasing him like it's something urgent. Unseen by both of them, the battalion commander is standing high above, watching them. He's on a phone call, speaking in a calm tone, as if nothing unusual is happening. During the call, he confirms his identity and with a quiet smirk, he asks the man on the other side to figure out what Corporal Lee used to do before he joined the army. Back on the ground, Park Junmo approaches Lee with way too much energy. His excitement is hard to ignore. He reaches out, trying to hold on to Lee. But Lee looks annoyed. This is not the time or place for jokes. He tells Junmo to stop acting like this is some love story. Park Junmo, though, doesn't give up. He starts running behind Lee like a loyal puppy, full of admiration. He tells Lee that he wants to be like him no matter what. He acts like being Lee's sidekick is the greatest dream he's ever had. Meanwhile, the battalion commander continues his phone call. He gives a quiet order, telling the person on the line to proceed, whatever that means. This doesn't feel like a normal chat anymore. There's something deeper going on. Lee pushes himself through the run, completely drenched in sweat. His body looks exhausted, but he keeps going like this one run means everything to him. Nothing slows him down, not even the heavy air or tired legs. From the window, the battalion commander keeps staring at Lee like he's the only thing worth looking at. His grin is wide, almost too wide, and something about it feels off. In his mind, it's not about charm or personality anymore. He thinks that it is completely the fault of Lee to make others too greedy. In the middle of the city, people are busy with their usual routines. The streets stay crowded, filled with the noise of daily life. Among them, a small boy feels something strange. His eyes catch a movement that looks like a monkey, and curiosity pushes him forward. At the edge of a shadowy alley, the boy calls out, thinking it's just a playful animal, but the figure in the dark is not something simple. Fear slowly takes over his face. The creature has a glowing magic circle on its forehead, clearly not normal. That one creature isn't alone either. Others, just like it, begin to step out from what looks like a glowing portal, all carrying the same strange energy. Meanwhile, Lee is now in the secret armory of the military base. Inside the armory, every kind of weapon is stacked. Blades, clubs, even things that look like toys. But he's not the only one there. Lieutenant Xiaoyue, the bold woman with bright red hair, is standing nearby, full of attitude, and it looks like she is his senior. She says the battalion commander is impressed with Lee and has rewarded him with some time off and a weapon of his choice. However, she warns that not everyone is happy about this, especially the platoon leader. Lee thinks about that platoon leader. In his past life, he always disliked Lee. That memory makes Lee feel like he's still stuck in the past. He starts to wonder if anything about him has really changed. The thought lingers, but then he brushes it off. What the platoon leader believes doesn't matter anymore. Hyeonuk keeps staring at Lee. She thinks he is really smug. She recalls that the sword marks on the goblins close to the gate were all the same. It seems like Lee faced all those goblins alone, and the idea sounds hard to believe. Her face says it all. She's confused but impressed. Lee picks up a wooden sword that looks like it barely survived a campfire. With full confidence, he decides this will be his weapon. He walks around proudly, acting like a hero who just saved the world. Seoid woman watches him, clearly confused. She tells him to think twice, warning that a random weapon might only bring problems. But Lee doesn't care. To him, this sword feels right. Suddenly, a system window pops up, revealing the sword's name, Cloudblade. Its power allows it to absorb water and release a thick mist. At first glance, it seems like a useless tool, something not worth picking. But Lee doesn't see it that way. He says this same sword will one day be used by Sergeant Cha Youngjun, who will earn the title of Sword Saint. The sword's true name is the Dark Hand of the Cloudmaster. In old Dangan legends, 3 gods ruled the weather: the Windmaster, the Rainmaster, and the Cloudmaster. Among them, the god that controlled the clouds was the Cloudmaster, and his pitch-black hand was called the Hand of Darkness. The Cloudmaster's Hand of Darkness, upon interpretation, means blades hidden amidst the clouds. The blades hidden amidst the clouds were none other than the Thunder God. Upon unleashing its full powers, it becomes capable of using lightning mighty enough for it to raid a mid-sized monster dungeon all alone. Lee believes in this power. With the combination of steel and lightning, nothing can beat this. He tells Lieutenant Seo Yunha that sorry, but he will be the one taking it this time. The woman still doesn't get the importance of the sword. She comments that it seems too plain for someone like him. But Lee just shrugs it off. He says he doesn't have time to be picky. Then the air changes. Loud sirens begin to echo across the base. Everyone stops. The woman quickly turns serious. Alarms blast in every direction, and chaos starts to spread. Soldiers rush out, pulling on their gear in a hurry. Word spreads fast. There's been an emergency breakout in Itaewon. The entire base moves like it's on fire. Lee, who looked so laid back a moment ago, suddenly becomes serious. His face changes, and he stands still, ready to move at any second. Seo Yuna glances at him from the side, clearly suspicious. She can tell something is off. He's too prepared, almost like he expected this emergency. In the city, soldiers fill the streets, keeping an eye out for anything strange. A strict-looking woman knight in a shiny silver armor appears with her shiny squad. They are walking like they own the place. 2 regular guards at their post stare in surprise. One whispers it's his first time seeing the Blue Flower Guild in person. The other confirms they're here for gate support. Everyone watches them. Their shiny armor and flashy weapons make them look more like they're on a stage than a battlefield. One soldier jokes that if they could sell their gear, he could probably buy property in Gangnam. Another one dreams big, planning to join the Blue Flower Guild after service and live a life full of style. Back to Lee, he now leads his team like a real commander. He gives a briefing. The vice platoon commander confirmed it's a cobalt gate this time. These monsters may be small, but they're dangerous. They use poison gas and sharp needles. Even giant orcs don't hit this hard. Mistakes lead to quick losses. While addressing, Lee spots a soldier with rolled-up sleeves and immediately corrects him. This isn't a summer trip, it's a battlefield. Of course, there's always one who doesn't take it seriously. The soldier wonders if the kobolds will even show up. Lee answers sharply. This isn't a drill. He even paints a brutal picture of what might happen if they're not ready. This could be their last day on planet. This makes the soldier freeze on the spot. To finish, Lee orders everyone to check their masks. Poison gas is no joke. Safety comes first, even in the middle of Joes. One slip up and it could all fall apart. Just then, Kwak Jinchul barges in with his group. He mocks Lee, making fun of his so-called trash unit. He taunts them, saying they are having meetings like they're part of the main support squad. But they are nothing more than some background characters in someone else's mission. Lee's squad members stay quiet. The support squad is the team where players go when they're not strong enough for the front lines. Calling it trash is cheap. Lee doesn't let it pass. He gives Kwak a cold stare, full of silent anger, and immediately fires back. He warns that kobolds often sneak around the battlefield even during raids. Being at the back doesn't mean safety. Everyone still needs to be alert. Lee even reminds Kwak and his unit to keep their masks ready. The red zone is the evacuation point once the gate opens. He says again, safety first, even for a squad like theirs. Kwak doesn't take the warning seriously. He snaps back, full of pride, claiming he doesn't need help from someone he sees as nothing more than a sidekick. Lee throws him another hard stare, but Kwok walks off, brushing it all aside like it means nothing. Lee watches him go but can't hold back anymore. He tells Kwok to remember that he warned him, but Kwok only laughs it off, saying, "Sure, Mr. Leader of the shitty squad." The rest of Lee's unit says nothing. They seem used to being called trash, almost like it no longer matters. But for Lee, it matters a lot. His squad may be overlooked, but they're his people. That insult hits deep, and he refuses to ignore it. His anger boils over. He turns to his team and lets loose. His voice cuts through the noise, sharp and powerful. He tells them to snap out of it, to stop acting like they don't matter. This isn't a fantasy game. Out here, people die. Then he ends with a chilling order: "Don't lose your spirit." The squad feels his words and responds with a strong, united reply. Energy shifts. Everyone now stands a little straighter. Lee explains that kobolds may be small, but they are smart and tricky. He points out that, in tight places like sewers, they must strike fast and aim for the spots where these creatures sense emotions. There's no time to lose. With danger getting closer, he gives them just 20 minutes to prepare and take positions. His voice is steady but firm. With that, the team springs into action. Soldiers rush off to prepare, fully locked into mission mode. He then calls out for Park Jummo. Around him, the other soldiers start to whisper, noticing something unusual. One asks if Lee Hyeonuk seems more tense than usual. His partner nods, saying there's something different about him today. Jummo asks Lee why he's called. But before anything more can happen, everything changes. A needle suddenly hits Lee in the neck. It happens so fast there's no time to react. His body starts to freeze. The poison takes over and he drops to the ground helpless. Thick, green gas starts rising from the sewer grates. It spreads fast, filling the area with a poisonous cloud. Many soldiers fall right away, their bodies unable to fight the toxic air. A few manage to grab their masks in time, protecting themselves just enough to stay standing. The entire battlefield turns into chaos. Kobolds begin to rush in, using the smoke to their advantage. In the middle of this, Lee remains down, unable to move, struggling to breathe. He silently begs for anyone to help him. Out of the smoke comes a towering boss-level kobold. Its steps are slow but full of confidence. Around its neck hangs a necklace of human eyeballs, each one a trophy. This creature doesn't just fight, it collects. It walks toward Lee with a dagger, ready to finish him. Then, in a flash, Park Jummo throws himself into the fight. He knocks the creature back, stopping the final blow just in time. The dagger cuts across the right eye of Lee, but he is still alive. He is injured and weak but still breathing. Jummo rushes to help, trying to put the mask on his face. Lee tells him to run, to save himself. But before Jummo can do anything else, the boss kobold attacks again. Its blade swings fast and deadly, and Jummo is cut down in an instant. Lee freezes. He cannot believe it. Helpless, he watches his comrade fall. His chest fills with pain and rage. But then everything fades. That moment is not now. It belongs to his past life. A memory haunting and heavy. Looking at Jummo in the present, still alive and unaware, Lee clenches his fists. He knows the real battle today won't be in the front lines. It will begin in the rear. And this time, he won't let history repeat itself. He will save Jummo, no matter what. Lee quietly pulls Park Jummo aside and gives him a direct order. When the time comes, he will send a signal, and at that moment, Jummo must take the squad and leave the battlefield. The command feels heavy. Jummo stands there in shock, knowing that leaving the battlefield during a fight can mean serious punishment. In military terms, this is called armed desertion, leaving a post with a weapon to avoid duty. In Korea, this is a major crime with a minimum of 5 years in prison. Jummo starts to worry, thinking this could ruin his life, but Lee stays calm. His voice doesn't shake. He tells Jummo that this isn't desertion, it's part of a strategy. This, he says, is a war tactic meant to protect lives and change the flow of the fight. Far from that private talk, the front line begins moving into the red zone. The combat squads enter an old warehouse, and the atmosphere turns heavy. Inside, they find it crawling with kobold monsters hiding in the dark. The soldiers group together, forming a tight wall with their shields. Magic barriers glow in front of them, creating a line of defense. From the shadows, the monsters begin to charge. Their footsteps grow louder, closer, faster. Just before the first wave slams into the defenses, the soldiers respond. Bullets tear through the air. Spells burst with light and heat. The entire warehouse lights up in a mix of gunfire and magic. Back near the rear zone, the support stays focused. They move carefully, planting motion sensors at key points. Each sensor is a small step in his plan. Quiet, steady, and unnoticed for now. Lee finishes planting the last motion sensor and carefully marks the spot with a strip of aluminum tape. His movements stay precise, following the instructions from the manual. Just then, Lieutenant Lee Minwi approaches. His eyes scan the setup with little interest. He asks what Lee is up to. Lee straightens his posture and salutes. He explains clearly that he's following proper procedure, placing sensors and tagging the area to track movement. But the lieutenant doesn't seem to care much. His face shows no sign of approval. With a sharp tone, Minwi says the Blue Flower Guild has already been assigned to assist. In his view, Lee is overreacting about a simple kobold gate. He reminds Lee that the first platoon will begin their mission soon, and the only job for the support squad is to prepare detox potions. Lee doesn't step back. He speaks up again, repeating what the vice platoon commander had told them. Their task is to block any monsters that might sneak out from the rear and head toward the civilian zones. It's not just backup work, it is protection duty. The voice isn't quiet. Lee says it loud enough for nearby soldiers to hear. A few heads turn, soldiers curious about the sudden tension between the two officers. Lieutenant Manhwa notices the attention. His jaw tightens. The crowd gathering around makes him uneasy. He scolds Lee in front of everyone, saying he's acting out of line just because the battalion commander gave him a little recognition. Then comes the finger pointing. Manhwa waves a finger at Lee again and again, mocking him in a cold voice. He says just because Lee is the only guy in the barracks who's seen one real battle, he should not act like he is a pro. Lee, however, doesn't back down. He keeps calling out his own name louder each time Manhwa says something, making sure every ear nearby hears it. The look on his face doesn't change. There's no fear, only determination. This defiance irritates Manhwa even more. His anger grows not because of the noise, but because he sees something in the eyes of Lee, a quiet challenge that refuses to break. Just then, a lady officer comes running towards them. It is Sergeant Cha Seona, a C-ranked known for her healing abilities. Her presence brings a wave of calm but also a surprise. She walks up, asking what's happening. Lieutenant Manhwa freezes for a second. The sharp edge in his voice fades. He quickly hides his frustration and puts on a fake calm face. He starts pretending that he's just mentoring Lee, trying to act like a responsible officer sharing his wisdom. Lee watches all this silently. Everything is going exactly the way he planned. He had been loud on purpose, hoping Seoa would notice and walk over. She's the one person who makes Manhwa drop his act, and Lee knows it well. Manhwa has a big crush on Seona. Manhwa, now flustered, tries to talk smoothly. He asks her what brings her here, trying to play it cool, but the shift in his tone is clear. It's awkward and stiff, like someone caught in the middle of a lie. Sergeant Sua stays focused. She reports that battalion commander has asked for Lee. Her words catch Lee off guard. He wasn't expecting to be called at this moment. For a second, he stands still, taking it in. The timing feels strange. But whatever the reason, the battalion commander wants him now. Something important must be coming. On top of a nearby building, Lieutenant Seoyuna stands watch with her unit. From her high position, she scans the quiet streets below using her binoculars. Her eyes catch sight of Sergeant Seoa, who now speaks with Lee near the sensor setup. Seona winks at Lee and tells him that she will finish the sensor work for him. So he must go now. She sees that the harsh words of Lieutenant Manhwa had clearly bothered Lee. Her gesture has given Lee a break and a reason to step away. With no reason to stay behind, Lee nods and prepares to leave. He is almost running. There isn't much time left. His mind begins to race, wondering what the battalion commander wants with him now of all times. Nothing had ever happened like this before. In his last life, there was no such moment. From her rooftop post, one of the soldiers of Seoyuna breaks the silence and asks if it's really fine for their attack unit to stay idle during a raid. After all, they serve directly under the battalion commander. The soldier's words hang in the air, but the AMT paladin responds firmly. Orders are orders. A soldier's duty is to follow, not question. Far below, Lee reaches the temporary command center. He walks in expecting a normal meeting, but is immediately caught off guard. Inside the tent stands Major Kim Kang-suk, the battalion commander himself. Beside him is Warrant Officer Chan, the leader of the powerful Black Tiger unit. His surprise deepens when the commander speaks. This meeting is not just a check-in. It is a test. The commander appoints Lee to take over for Sergeant Chai Youngjun, who is currently on leave. He is to act as the temporary squad leader for the 1st platoon during the upcoming 2nd strike on the gate. The announcement hits hard. Lee never got this kind of trust before. In his past life, the commander barely noticed him. Now, he stands here being handed real responsibility. His thoughts swirl. Something has changed. Something big. But there's no time to question it. Worry builds inside Lee. His thoughts grow heavier. This isn't the right time for such a huge responsibility. He tells the commanders that he has only worked on support missions until now. This is not a training exercise. It's the real thing. The idea of leading the 1st platoon into live combat makes him uneasy. One mistake could cost lives. His fear isn't for himself. It's for the soldiers who might follow him into danger without knowing he's unprepared. But the battalion commander stays firm. The order has been given, and that's final. Suddenly, a crackle comes through the walkie-talkie. The Delta team sends a warning. The boss monster has moved out of the kobold nest. Members stationed in the 2nd and 3rd red zones are told to get ready. Lee's heartbeat races. He understands what this means. The monsters will likely circle around and strike the rear guard. If he doesn't reach them fast, his squad could be wiped out before they even know what hit them. No choice remains. He must leave. He asks for permission to speak. The battalion commander makes a nod, and without wasting a moment, Lee turns and bolts out of the command post. From the top, Seoyuna is still observing. She sees Lee running hard, cutting across the camp with urgency in his steps. Through his walkie-talkie, he is shouting clear warnings about poison gas. The alarms begin to ring out, motion sensors have been triggered. Poisonous gas starts pouring from the manholes. Thick clouds spread quickly, covering the area like a creeping fog. The smell hits hard. Panic follows. Lee is startled. This isn't how he remembers it. The battle has already started and it's moving faster than before. No time left. No second chances. He moves forward with everything he has, ready to fight for the people he came to protect. Earlier at the temporary command post, just after getting permission to speak, Lee brings up something no one expects. He talks about the story surrounding the battalion commander's very first mission, one where every soldier in his platoon reportedly died. His words are bold and heavy. Warrant Officer Chan reacts first, clearly caught off guard. The battalion commander responds with a cold stare. But Lee doesn't stop. He speaks with sincerity, saying it feels strange to be ordered into the front lines, especially when he's only a corporal from a support unit that everyone mocks. He questions whether the battalion commander now sees regular soldiers as tools to be used and thrown away. He doesn't accuse directly, but the message is clear. The commander prepares to respond, likely ready to explain that this test is part of a larger plan involving the elite attack squad. But before he can continue, Lee cuts in again. He says that if loyalty is what the commander wants, then Lee is ready to give his life without hesitation. Still, frustration fills his chest. He cannot say the truth that he knows what's coming because he's lived it once before. Instead, he frames it as fear over his lack of experience and concern about getting people killed. He continues and says that he deeply respects the battalion commander, but can't carry out this task if it means risking lives just to earn recognition. The room goes quiet. Everyone listens. Officer Chan speaks next. His warning is sharp. He tells Lee that going against orders in wartime is not taken lightly. The punishment could be death. Lee hears this, and for a brief moment, everything hangs in silence. He already knows the rules, but he also knows what will happen if he doesn't act. In his heart, he understands the weight of this choice. After a long pause, the battalion commander finally gives his answer. He agrees to let Lee return to the original support role for today. Relief washes over Lee, but before he can feel safe, the commander gives one final reminder. A soldier cannot ignore commands without consequences. That part will come later. For now, Lee has the chance to go back and do what must be done. Back in the middle of chaos, Lee is surrounded by the thick poison gas. His breaths grow short, and he quickly puts on his mask to protect himself. He then opens his inventory bag and pulls out the cloud blade without hesitation. He opens his water bottle and pours water directly onto the blade. The metal begins to react immediately, soaking in the liquid. The sword's special skill, wet fog, activates. A low mist begins forming around him, but the visibility is still poor. Toxic gas is everywhere. His heart pounds. He fears he may have arrived too late. His thoughts shift to Park Jummo and the squad. He silently hopes they followed his order to evacuate when they had the chance. Meanwhile, at the rear guard zone, danger has stroked hard. Kobolds call out from the shadows, catching the soldiers by surprise. One soldier gets hit, a sharp pickaxe piercing into his side. The cry for help is loud and desperate. Park Jummo hears it and reacts instantly. He turns and fires at the kobold, forcing the creature to retreat. The monster pulls back into the smoke, and the soldier finally gets a chance to breathe. Jummo wastes no time. He tells the rest of the support team to retreat into the protected military box and to bring the wounded soldier with them. One of the soldiers steps up. He grabs the injured man and starts dragging him to safety, while the others keep their weapons raised and cover their retreat. Inside the shelter, tension remains high. Sergeant Koisuna, the pink-haired healer, is sitting frozen in the corner. Her body is trembling and her hands refuse to move. Fear keeps her locked in place. Jummo tries to snap her out of it, but his words can't break through. Then the truth hits him. She's only 20. This is her first real combat mission since her appointment. No training could have prepared her for this. Right now, she's just a scared kid facing the terror of a real war for the first time. Jummo stands in the middle of the chaos, feeling the weight of failure press down on him. His squad is struggling, and he feels powerless. The support troops shout that their ammo is nearly gone. The kobolds keep hitting the magic barrier again and again. Fear fills the air. Every second drags heavier than the last. In his head, Jummo asks himself what someone stronger would do, what Lee would do if he were here. That thought brings a spark of courage. Slowly, Jummo reaches into his bag and pulls out a small hammer. It doesn't look like much, but it's all he has. The others begin to go quiet, watching him. With the last of the bullets gone, the team begins to panic. Jummo raises his voice and gets their attention. He tells them that the kobolds have a strange obsession with shiny things. That strange detail might be the only way out of this trap. He then says he'll distract the monsters using the hammer. His goal is simple: draw them away, even for a few seconds. During that time, the others must run, taking Siono and the injured with them. No hesitation. No looking back. Shock spreads across their faces. No one expected Junno to take charge. Then he speaks with clarity and force, calling it an order, not a suggestion. For the first time, he claims role as vice platoon leader. Sparks begin to dance across the hammer's surface. Electricity crackles, lighting up his surroundings just enough to be noticed. He reminds them that the Blue Flower Guild is waiting outside the red zone. Safety is not far, but they have to reach it. With his voice firm, he tells them to grit their teeth and run when he gives the sign. A few kobolds begin to shift their focus, drawn to the glowing weapon in Jummo's hand. It isn't strong magic. It isn't anything impressive. But it shines, and that's enough. Deep down, Jummo knows his weak electric skills won't stop these monsters. But he also knows this: if he can give them even the smallest chance to escape, then it's enough. For once, he isn't standing still. He's doing something that matters. Park Jummo lifts his sparking hammer high and begins to run in one direction, not looking back. The flickering lights from the weapon catch the attention of every kobold nearby. One by one, the monsters shift their focus toward him and charge forward. The plan is working. He yells for the support squad to run now, to use this moment and escape with the injured. The troops stare in shock. None of them expected Jummo to act so boldly. The monsters follow close behind, closing the distance. Jummo runs with everything he has. In his heart, he thinks this is exactly the kind of desperate move Lee would make, using even the weakest tool if it meant saving lives. Even using someone like Jummo as bait. Just when the kobolds are about to reach him, something fast cuts through the air. A bayonet flies past, swinging with force and slashing the monsters that are chasing Jummo. The monsters behind Jummo are cut in halves. This blocks the path just long enough. Jummo keeps running and crashes into someone standing ahead. He falls to the ground, winded. Looking up, he sees Lee standing in front of him. Lee speaks with that familiar mix of scolding and care. Turns out, he heard everything Jummo had said moments ago. Lee draws out his cloud blade and activates wet fog. The mist flows out, gently spreading through the poisoned air. The toxic gas slowly starts to clear. Jummo sits up in disbelief, surprised to see Lee alive and well in this chaos. Lee turns to Jummo, calling his name. Jummo quickly apologizes, saying he wasn't trying to copy him and just acted on instinct. But Lee doesn't get angry. He simply thanks Jummo for staying alive and says he did an excellent job. Those words hit hard. Jummo's eyes start to fill with tears. Everything he had been holding in, the fear, the pressure, starts to spill out. Looking around at the monsters gathering once again, Lee tightens his grip on the blade. He says with pride that Jummo has done something truly brave. Because of that courage, Lee now gets to take the next step. A wide grin spreads across his face. He declares that what stands before him looks like a perfect feast, and thanks to the efforts of Jummo, he's more than ready to devour it with everything he has got. Before we continue, if you have liked this recap, hit that like button as today's goal is 1,500 likes. Also, consider subscribing with the notification bell on to get notified as soon as a new video drops onto the channel. You can also join the channel to support me financially and watch videos before public release. I'll meet you in the next video. Until then, thanks for watching. Lee moves fast, his bayonet slicing cleanly through the kobold monsters. Each strike lands with sharp precision, stopping them before they get too close. Their numbers begin to fall, leaving behind chunks of mana steel on the ground. The sight of it sparks hunger in him. It looks tempting, almost too good to ignore. Park Jummo watches from nearby, a little confused. He thinks Lee is talking about the kobold corpses as if they're food, not the mana steel. Lee feels a bit stuck. There's no way he can start snacking on glowing loot or anything else strange in front of Jummo right now. That kind of behavior still needs to stay hidden. Turning serious again, Lee scans the battlefield. His eyes move quickly, searching for the boss-level kobold. Something doesn't feel right. Then, without warning, all the monsters pause. The symbols on their foreheads flash with light, bright and sharp. It looks like a signal. In unison, the kobolds turn and rush back toward the direction they came from. Lee's instincts scream at him. Something is wrong. The sudden retreat isn't part of any normal attack pattern. His face hardens as he turns to Jummo and tells him to follow. Together, they run back, heading toward their squad mates. Time is slipping away, and Lee fears what might be waiting ahead. Far above, the situation grows tense. The thick gas still blocks the view, making it impossible for the attack squad to see what's really happening on the ground. That cuts off their chance to help from a distance. Seo Yuna, standing among the attack squad, quickly makes a decision. She orders her team to watch the edge of the gas zone. Any monster that escapes must be stopped before reaching the civilian area. Her voice is calm but firm. Her hand reaches for her mask. One of her soldiers notices and asks where she's going. But she doesn't stop. She remembers how Lee moved, how prepared he seemed. He didn't look surprised. He looked like someone who knew exactly what was coming. Without another word, she puts on her mask and dives straight into the thick cloud of gas, determined to find the truth for herself. Back at the rear guard post, panic spreads. Sergeant Chai Seo is still frozen, unable to move. Her body trembles, and her eyes stay locked on the chaos around her. One of the soldiers is bleeding heavily and needs healing fast. The others shout and beg her to help, to pull herself together, but her fear keeps her frozen in place. At the same time, the military box that had been protecting them starts to break apart. It turns out the boss kobold had never left them alone. It was striking the box all along while the others chased Junmo. The walls hold for a little while, but cracks form, and the structure starts to collapse under the strength of the monster's spell. More trouble arises. A wave of kobolds begins rushing in from the gas, their eyes locked onto the remaining soldiers. The squad's hope fades. Some begin to panic openly. The end feels closer than ever. In the middle of this pressure, the boss kobold suddenly stops. Something ahead catches its attention. Behind its army, two human shapes emerge through the mist. It's Lee with Park Junmo. They are running towards their squad. Lee is ready. He is coming to save his squad. His presence cuts through the fear. He shouts at the monsters to back off. Without delay, he summons his bayonet from above and aims straight for the boss. The boss monster blocks the first strike with sharp reflexes. But the weapon doesn't stop. It changes direction mid-air and begins to chase. The boss jumps aside, narrowly dodging it. The bayonet continues its pursuit, and just when it looks like it might miss, it lands a clean strike, not on the monster, but on the gas canister strapped to its back. A burst of poison hisses into the air. The boss kobold screeches in fury. Its mark glows once again, and a wave of new commands flows through the army. In response, the monsters split and surround Lee on both sides. They turn and lift their arms. Dozens of then poison darts appear in their hands. Lee and Juno barely have a second to react. A volley of poison needles flies toward them from every angle. Lee grips his cloud blade tight and prepares. His body moves quickly, and he starts sweeping the blade in wide arcs. Each motion knocks needles from the air. Junmo steps forward too, trying to shield Lee, even if it costs him. Lee turns to Junmo and calls out, telling him to get down. Lee knows he has to do something. These needles are lethal. So, without wasting any more time, he activates his metal control ability and focuses his mind on controlling the steel needles. The metallic needles in the air respond to his will, and with his blade still in motion, he makes the cloud of flying darts change their path. In this moment, every move counts, and he's not letting a single one of those needles hit his squad. The speed of the needles was too fast for his control. The strain becomes too much. His focus slips, and the giant bayonet he had been guiding toward the boss kobold drops to the ground with a heavy thud. Lee tries to shoot at the surrounding monsters, but it's clear those shots won't be enough. The kobolds aren't moving on their own. Every step, every attack, they're being controlled by the boss. There's no random chaos. This is planned. He realizes the battlefield is too dangerous with Junmo still by his side. They need to retreat. Without wasting another second, he tells Junmo to fall back toward the military box. The two of them sprint across the open zone as more poison darts cut through the air. Lee continues using his metal control to shield them from another wave, buying just enough time. Step by step, they reach the protective barrier of the military box and rush inside. For a brief moment, everything feels still. Lee takes a deep breath. They've made it. But that relief doesn't last. He looks up and sees the support squad surrounding him. Their faces show both surprise and hope. Park Junmo observes and quickly reports that Private An Minty has lost consciousness and hasn't moved since. Lee looks at the healer, Sergeant Koi Siona. She's right there, alive and unhurt, but frozen. She could not help Park An Minty in this state. Her hands are shaking, and her whole body stays locked in fear. It becomes painfully clear that she's still deep in a panic attack. The weight of the situation hits him. Without their healer, they stand no chance. Injuries will pile up. Soldiers will die. That can't happen. Without hesitation, Lee walks over to her. His expression turns cold. All eyes turn to him. He doesn't yell. He speaks with force and clarity. He asks her what she is doing right now. Park An Minto is dying. His words push her like thunder. He reminds her of the moment they're in. This is a battlefield, not a classroom. If she stays frozen, everyone around her will die. He looks her straight in the eye and asks her whether she wants to live a life full of regret. Whether she even understands what that means, how heavy it feels to carry that kind of failure forever. Something clicks. Her breathing changes. The haze in her eyes starts to clear. That voice, that pressure, it brings her back. Without another word, she rushes toward the wounded soldier and finally begins to heal. Lee kneels beside the wounded soldier, asking quickly about his condition. Sergeant Kai Seo responds. Her voice is still shaky but determined. She explains that the blood loss is severe, and the delay in treatment didn't help, but she's giving everything she has to save him. Lee gives her a short nod of thanks, knowing her courage returned just in time. Then, without hesitation, he turns to the rest of the squad. He asks to borrow all of their great swords. He adjusts his gas mask and is about to go back into the battlefield. Junmo realizes this and asks if Lee is going to attack them. Lee replies that it's payback time. Meanwhile, somewhere far from chaos, a luxury car glides along the highway. Inside, a well-dressed woman listens to news of the Itaewon Station incident through her phone. A giant spider rests calmly on her shoulder like a pet. She doesn't say much, but her interest is clear. With a quiet command, she tells her driver to head straight to Itaewon. Back near the rear lines, Lee moves quickly through the gas-filled battlefield. His cloud blade continues to emit a steady mist, clearing the toxic air around him. The mist leaves a safe trail as he follows a familiar marker, the strip of aluminum tape he placed earlier. The area feels too quiet. Lee knows this silence well. Every kobold, including the boss, is now hiding somewhere, waiting for the right moment to launch another deadly attack. But he's ready. Every step takes him closer to the center of the trap he set. The boxes and sensors are placed exactly where they need to be. The tape marks the heart of it all. Only one spot carries risk, Sector A, the zone managed by Sergeant Kasiowina during setup. That's the one possible blind spot. Lee doesn't waste time. His goal is the boss monster, the one behind every move. He activates his metal detection skill. The air shifts slightly as he scans for anything made of metal, anything he didn't place himself. The results come in quickly. Several metal signals pop up, but only the ones outside of Area A are unfamiliar. Those have to be enemies. In one sharp motion, he launches all the borrowed great swords into the air. Each blade shoots toward the unknown signals like guided arrows. They strike with force and precision, hitting the hidden kobolds before they can react. The traps are sprung. The enemy no longer controls the flow of battle. Lee does. One of the flying blades speeds straight toward the boss kobold, but before it can hit, a barrier of magic rises up. The blade freezes mid-air. Lee feels the resistance through his control and immediately knows he's found the one in charge. He wastes no time and sends all 5 great swords flying toward that spot. The boss kobold erupts in fury. The metal on its head flashes bright, and all 5 swords come to a halt. It holds them in place with sheer magical force, standing tall like it has already won. The display of power doesn't impress Lee. It only makes him more irritated. He tries to pull the swords back, but they won't move. The boss's magic holds them tight, keeping them locked mid-air. Lee clenches his jaw. He's now exposed with no weapons close by. Then, the next wave begins. The surrounding kobolds receive a silent order, and dozens of poison needles are fired his way. With his blades out of reach, Lee raises his arms to block the incoming barrage. Needles strike one after another, hitting his forearms. The pain should be unbearable, but something strange happens. The boss kobold watches closely, expecting Lee to fall. Instead, all the needles suddenly crash to the ground. Lee stands tall, completely unhurt. The reason becomes clear. His body-strengthening technique was activated just before impact. His arms were hardened, turned into a shield through pure force and will. Without wasting the moment, Lee calls the great swords back. They fly to his side in an instant. The kobolds around him close in, forming a tight circle. Lee doesn't back down. He begins to move. The swords start spinning around him at incredible speed. Faster and faster, they slice through the air like a storm. A violent tornado of steel forms around him, cutting down anything that steps too close. The storm rages, sweeping through the entire area. The ground shakes. Wind blasts outward. Every kobold caught inside the whirlwind is torn down without mercy. When the dust finally settles, nothing remains of the surrounding monsters. Only Lee stands in the middle, surrounded by silence. Boss kobold, still alive, stares in disbelief. Lee lifts his head and his eyes locked onto his target. He shouts at the kobold boss, saying, "Lie, dark mage kobold. It is time to end this." The boss, clearly agitated, sends out another thick wave of poison gas. The air becomes heavy, vision blurs, and movement grows harder. But Lee doesn't flinch. He states the truth, and asks the boss if he knows how much effort Lee put into making sure he is the only one left. No more tricks can change what's coming. Lee taps into his metal detection skill once more. His focus sharpens, filtering out every piece of metal until only one unfamiliar signal remains. That one mark gives away the kobold's position. But he knows not to strike blindly. Daggers won't work. The boss is quick and skilled. He will catch any careless move. Seconds pass and something feels off. The boss isn't moving at all. Suddenly, dark tendrils shoot up from the ground, racing toward Lee like living shadows. Before he can react, one of them wraps around his leg. The grip is strong. It yanks him off the ground and pulls him straight toward the boss. The monster doesn't wait. It slams Lee upward, launching him into the air, then lets him fall with brutal force, hoping to end the fight through sheer impact. The boss starts laughing, convinced that victory is already in its grasp. But a sharp voice calls out from the ground. Lee rises, his body bruised but not broken. His legs had been reinforced to steel just in time, shielding him from the worst of the fall. Anger rushes through him. Flashes from his past return, the pain, the fear, the helplessness the kobolds once caused him. His eyes burn with fury. He won't be defeated the same way again. The boss senses the shift and charges. Its speed picks up fast, and within moments, it circles behind Lee. A dagger shoots forward with perfect aim. Lee dodges just in time. The blade barely grazes past. Lee gets furious. Backstabs have always been the thing he despised most. Without hesitation, Lee swings his blade at the boss. The blade strikes the head of the boss, and he flinches. But Lee doesn't stop. He tells the boss that he needs a proper beating. Then, in one motion, he strengthens his leg and slams his foot into the face of Cobbled Boss. The force is explosive. The boss is knocked back hard, and its body flings through the air like a rag doll. Lee walks forward with fire in his eyes and asks the kobold boss if he knows how many times he has imagined this moment since the day he came back to life. A moment where he finally takes revenge on the backstabbers like him. He tells the kobold boss that he should consider it an honor to be the first to fall by his hands. Just then, the mask covering the boss kobold's face shatters, breaking apart into useless fragments. With that, its power to use magic disappears. Lee doesn't wait. He sends his great swords flying once more. Each blade slices across the boss's body, cutting deep and fast. The monster crashes to the ground, its canister of poison shattered completely. Lee steps closer and grabs the boss. Lee lifts it high, his grip is tight, his voice turns cold. All the years of fear and humiliation, the silent suffering, pour out in every word. He speaks of how low he had fallen because of this one creature. The marks across his body aren't just cuts. They're symbols, woods carved by the very daggers once carried by his old squad. The same squad that was wiped out in his previous life. Then he thinks of Park Jumo, the kind and brave soul who once saved him and paid the price with his life. Lee's eyes sharpen. His next move is not just an attack. It's justice. He drives the cloud blade deep into the boss's stomach. The sword begins to glow faintly as it draws out the blood of a high-ranked monster. A strange energy flows into the blade, feeding it with something unknown and powerful. Lee holds the dying monster steady. He doesn't want it to die just yet. There's one final piece left. A dagger rises into the air, one that once belonged to the boss. The same weapon that scarred the face of Lee in his past life. His hand flicks forward and the blade spins toward the creature. It slices across the monster's face, sharp and clean. Boss Kobold falls still. Its life finally ends. At that moment, the cloud blade shines brighter. The system responds. A message appears, telling Lee that the weapon's hidden power is starting to awaken. The blade is now filled with 11% of the unknown energy, gained from slaying the elite monster. A wave of relief washes over Lee. The first nightmare from his past, the event that haunted him for so long, has finally been reversed. The monster that once caused him so much pain is gone. The battlefield falls quiet. Then, something catches his eye. A small object slips from the fallen boss's body and lands near his feet. It's a medallion, dark and ominous, pulsing faintly with power. He picks it up slowly. The symbol is unmistakable. This is Inferno, the devil's medallion, a relic filled with power from the demon race. His eyes narrow. In his past life, this wasn't in the hands of some kobold. It belonged to someone far more dangerous. That person was humanity's worst nightmare, the Necromancer. A man who controlled an undead army and turned the world into a battlefield of horror. Lee remembers the devastation he caused. No one knew much about him, but there was one strange trait they both shared, a certain growth ability. Lee kept his ability to advance ranks hidden after regressing, all because of what he once saw in that Necromancer. The memories return, his last fight with the man inside a workshop of molten lava and golems. In that battle, he barely made it out alive and only got his hands on a replica of this very medallion. Now the real one sits in his palm. That makes no sense. Confusion builds. Something bigger is going on, something hidden from him. There are still pieces of this world he hasn't uncovered. The poison gas continues to fade, the air becoming clearer. Lee knows he has little time left. He turns to the medallion, planning to absorb it now before anyone sees. But then, his name is called. Kou is standing behind him. Her armor reflects the light, and her tone is sharp and serious. She doesn't sound casual, her voice carries suspicion. She saw something. Maybe too much. She points her sword towards Lee and asks him, who is he in reality, and what is he hiding? Lee turns and forces himself to stay calm, hiding the thoughts racing through his mind. He tries to read her face, but before anything else can happen, someone else arrives. Out of nowhere, they hear a slow, steady clap. A tall woman in a lavender suit approaches them, clapping in excitement. She is moving with elegance, and on her shoulder rests a large spider that seems completely at ease. She looks at Lee with curiosity and interest. She had been watching the battle too. She then introduces herself to Lee as Catherine Yu, the head of the SEAL attack unit of the Blue Flower Guild. Earlier, when Seo Yuma asked Lee what he was hiding, Lee reacted instantly. He quickly moved his hand and slipped the devil's medallion out of sight before she could get a proper look. Turning around, he forced a calm expression on his face. The battle had just ended, and now someone like her, an AMT paladin, was standing behind him. He wondered how much she saw. The fight wasn't ordinary. The skills he used weren't ones a typical F rank should have. But before the moment could grow tense, Catherine arrived. In present, Catherine Yu steps forward, graceful and composed. She praises the battle with casual elegance. She says she only watched from a distance, but her tone suggests she saw more than she lets on. She then notices Seo Yuna and makes a formal remark, calling her the third daughter of the paladin captain. The recognition carries weight, but it's slightly off. Su Yua quickly corrects her. She's not just a daughter, she's a captain herself, leading the 1st Battalion Attack Squad under the 3rd AMT Brigade. She then reminds Catherine that this area is under active military operations and civilians are not permitted. Catherine doesn't seem bothered. The warning slides past her without concern. She steps closer to Lee and introduces herself directly, offering him her name card with a smooth, polished gesture. She is more than just a bystander, an A-rank player, and the second daughter of the leader of Korea's most powerful civilian guild, the Blue Flower Guild. Her presence here isn't small. It carries influence. She studies the face of Lee, expecting surprise, awe, or at least recognition. But Lee doesn't react the way she expects. No wide eyes, no questions, nothing. What she doesn't know is that Lee already knows exactly who she is. In his past life, Catherine Yi was one of his greatest enemies, someone he had to face much later down the line. Now she's here, far earlier than expected. And unlike her, Lee remembers everything. A memory surges through Lee's mind, clear and painful. In a battlefield covered in flames and screams, Seo Yuna stands between him and Catherine. Her armor is torn, her body already wounded, yet she refuses to move. In that moment, she makes the final choice. She gives her life to shield him from Catherine's deadly strike. Catherine didn't hesitate back then. She struck with cold precision. Seo Yuna collapsed, and Lee could only scream, powerless to stop it. Now, standing here, facing that same woman once again, his chest tightens. Catherine isn't just a stranger. She's the one who killed Seo Yuna in his past life. That truth makes her presence unbearable. Back in the present, Catherine flashes her usual smile, reminding Lee that an opportunity lies before him. Her voice is light, but her eyes hold that same edge he remembers. Seo Yuna doesn't back down. Her tone is sharper now. She orders Catherine to leave the restricted military area. Rules are rules. The mood turns heavy. Catherine frowns at the pushback. She raises her voice, declaring her authority as the head of the Blue Flower Guild's sole attack squad. Her words carry weight, and the tension between the two women thickens. Neither looks away. Their standoff draws all attention. Lee stands silently between them. Their glares clash like lightning, and he can only blink in disbelief. He thinks this is way too uncomfortable to be a part of. A loud engine breaks the silence. A military jeep pulls up fast and comes to a halt. The battalion commander steps out, eyes sharp and unreadable. He walks with steady steps, taking in the entire scene. His eyes scan the field, countless kobold corpses, broken weapons, gas lingering in the air. Then he spots the boss kobold's body pierced cleanly by Lee's blade. His expression darkens. He turns gaze toward Lee. That look says everything. Lee feels his stomach drop. There's no escaping now. No excuse will explain all of this. But then the commander shifts focus. He greets Catherine politely, his tone cool. He acknowledges the Blue Flower Guild's efforts and expresses gratitude for the reinforcement. But his words soon turn firm. He tells her that her presence here is still a violation. Civilians aren't allowed in this operation zone, no exceptions. Catherine sighs like she's heard it all before. Her expression turns playful again. She pulls out her name card, presses a kiss mark onto it with deliberate ease, and hands it to Lee with a wink. Her voice lowers just enough for him to hear. She tells him to call her. Then she turns and walks away. The battalion commander steps forward and calls Lee over. His voice holds the weight of command, but also trust. Lee is handed an official order. He is to take over as acting squad commander for the remainder of the Kobold operation. The focus is clear and rescue the survivors first. Everything else comes second. Lee is told to manage the troops on site and make the final calls on their movement. Once everything settles, he is to report direct to the commander for a full debriefing. The responsibility is heavy, but Lee accepts it without hesitation. Just as the commander and his unit prepare to depart, Seo Yuna lingers behind for just a moment longer. Her stare burns into Lee, sharp and unreadable. It sends a chill through him. Still, the worst is over. He breathes easier knowing they made it out alive. 1 week later, Lee finally finishes absorbing the Devil's Medallion. The system updates him. His metal control weight increases by 499 grams, raising his total limit to 3,458 grams. A solid gain, but that's not all. Another message pops up. A new ability is forming inside him. A breath room, a special skill granted by the medallion, is starting to awaken. Suddenly, pain erupts through his body. The process is anything but gentle. He locks himself inside a bathroom stall, hoping to hide it until it passes. The burning sensation in his gut grows stronger, worse than he remembers from his last life. His body is tougher this time around, but the pain still hits harder than expected. Then, footsteps approach. Park Jummo is here. He thinks Lee is having dirty things going on in the toilet. Lee, however, is hunched over, drenched in sweat. He is sure something suspicious is happening in that stall. A week passes, and Lee finally manages to absorb the Devil's Medallion. His ability improves, and he gains control over an extra 49 grams of metal. Now, the total weight he can move with his power reaches 358 grams. The change feels small on paper, but to Lee it is a big step forward. He hides himself inside the toilet, trying to deal with the strange feeling in his body. A message from the system appears, informing him that a breath room is forming inside his stomach. This is a new ability from the medallion, but it brings intense pain. His body feels like it's burning from the inside and sweat pours from his face. His mind goes back to the past. He remembers going through the same pain in his previous life. That time had been hard, but this time feels even worse because his current body is weaker. Footsteps approach and the door creaks slightly. It is Park Jung-mo. He appears to be searching for Lee throughout the facility. He stands just outside the toilet and seems suspicious. Park Jung-mo misunderstands completely and assumes Lee is doing something strange alone in the toilet. Lee tries to explain, but the pain makes it hard to speak. His face twists, and his words come out broken. Suddenly, parts of his body begin to glow. Strange lights appear around his eyes, mouth, and skin. The glow spreads and his breathing grows heavier. Park Jung-mo steps back, his face full of shock. It appears to him that Lee is emitting light from the toilet. The sight is far from normal. Lee keeps trying to explain that it is not what it looks like. His voice is strained, but his eyes show that he's serious. Lee thinks about the fight at the cobbled gate. Many believed it would be easy, but it turned into a disaster. The number of wounded soldiers was high, and the whole squad was shaken. Thankfully, Sergeant Chioa stayed calm and managed to save Private Ann Minta, who had been badly hurt. With quick first aid and the right decisions, Minta was taken safely to the military hospital. After seeing how close they came to losing people, Lee begins to understand that trying to protect everyone by himself is not the answer. He decides to train the support squad so they can protect themselves if danger comes again. He puts in time and effort, making sure they know how to react in tough situations. But this new effort brings new problems. Sergeant Chai Sienoa, impressed by his actions, starts to get close to him more often. Her constant attention becomes a bit too much. At the same time, platoon leader Lee Minwee begins to grow more jealous. She notices the bond between Lee and Chai and doesn't hide her discomfort. The whole situation becomes messy. The military, Lee realizes, is full of unexpected twists, and things rarely go the way anyone plans. A bigger issue soon follows. The battalion commander calls Lee and asks him to stop working as an NCO and instead become a commissioned officer. This is a big change. Lee is not shocked, though. He has come to expect strange turns like this. The commander, still impressed by what Lee did during the Itaewon incident, shares a dream about changing the military. In this dream, everyone works together without caring about ranks. He believes Lee can help make this dream real. Lee doesn't hide his annoyance. The request feels too idealistic and heavy. He thinks the commander is asking too much of him. But even with his irritation, Lee tells him that he will give it some thought during his vacation. Deep down, he knows this decision may shape the path ahead. 3 weeks pass, and Lee's vacation finally begins. He returns to the Seoul station and hides inside the toilet once again. This time, something changes. His body reacts, and the new skill fully activates. The system confirms it. Lee has now gained breath room. This skill gives him 3 powerful effects. The first one is called In Vivo Furnace. It helps him absorb metal much faster, anywhere from 50 to 250% faster. But with more speed comes more pain. The stronger the effect, the more his body suffers. The second effect is called Fire Breath. With this, he can store some metal inside the breath chamber and shoot it out in the form of a powerful breath attack. Each breath uses up to 3 kilograms of metal. The ability feels dangerous, but also useful. Finally, Lee feels a little relieved. People have been gossiping about him spending too much time in toilets. Now, with this skill complete, he hopes those strange rumors can finally stop. But his mind remains heavy. His new strength is still not enough. In his past life, things had gone terribly wrong at the Seoul station gate. The battalion commander had been forced to give up and leave citizens behind. That painful memory remains fresh. Lee knows he must change that future. Looking around, he quietly tells himself that he is still too weak. He makes a silent promise. He will prepare, no matter how long it takes, and become strong enough to face that gate. At the same station, something unexpected happens. Sergeant Cha Seo appears. She is also on vacation and ends up in the same place by chance. Their eyes meet. Lee freezes for a second, clearly surprised to see her here. Without thinking too much, Sergeant Chai walks up, holding a cigarette on her lips. She asks for a lighter, almost on instinct. Her behavior is relaxed, different from how she usually acts on base. Lee doesn't respond right away. His eyes stay fixed on her, full of confusion. He wonders how she ended up here and why she seems so casual. For a brief moment, Sergeant Chai realizes what she's doing. She catches herself showing a side of her that she usually hides. Before we continue, if you have liked this recap, hit that like button as today's goal is 1,500 likes. Also, consider subscribing with the notification bell on to get notified as soon as a new video drops onto the channel. You can also join the channel to support me financially and watch videos before public release. I'll meet you in the next video. Until then, thanks for watching. Inside the train, Lee and Kwai Suno sit side by side. The space between them feels heavy. Neither says much, and an awkward silence fills the air. After a moment, Cha Seona tries to start a conversation. She gently asks if this is Lee's first vacation in a long time and wonders if he is going to visit his parents. Her voice is light, trying to sound casual. Lee calmly replies that both his parents passed away a long time ago. The air between them grows still again. Chai Suo looks unsure. Her eyes shift slightly as she struggles to find the right words, realizing her attempt at conversation has taken a wrong turn. Lee notices her discomfort and decides to change the mood. He starts to talk about something personal. He shares how, despite being lonely when he was younger, he found strength and comfort in his friends. These were not just normal friends, they were like family to him. They stood beside him during the darkest times. Memories of his past life come back to him, filled with warmth. He remembers his old comrades, the ones who fought alongside him when he was known as the Great Steel Emperor. A small smile appears on his face. For a short moment, the heavy mood fades as he loses himself in those memories. The train slows as it approaches his destination. Lee steps out at Yeongdeungpo, his hometown. He has 4 days and 3 nights ahead of him. This time is important. He plans to use every moment to get ready for what's coming. The first thing he needs is money. Without it, nothing can move forward. He walks along the station and notices a massive advertisement pasted on a wall. The poster belongs to Blue Tree, a giant company. Lee stops to look at it. His eyes narrow. He remembers that the man behind Blue Tree is Gordon Tracy. By now, Tracy should already be one of the richest men in the world. His fortune was built not just through hard work, but by using black money. He bought power, people, and rare items. Slowly, he gained control over everything, both legal and illegal. Many still talk about how the villains won in the past. But Lee knows the real reason. It wasn't just betrayal or poor planning. At the center of it all was money. Of course, catching up to someone like Tracy is out of the question. But Lee doesn't need to beat him in wealth. He only needs enough not to be crushed by it. That's the goal now. Gaining enough money to stand his ground in the battles ahead. Lee walks through the streets with a clear plan in mind. He already knows where the future is heading. His memories from his past life give him knowledge that others don't have. He remembers key events, when major things happen, and where money starts to flow. These chances are like gold mines waiting to be found. A simple thought crosses his mind: if he can invest even a small amount before the others, that little money can grow fast. Over time, it can snowball into something powerful. But he also knows something else. To make that plan work, he needs someone he can fully trust. No second chances, no betrayal. Someone who will keep their promise even if it's small. Trust and loyalty come before anything else in this plan. Soon he arrives at the place he's looking for, the Hope Guild. Before stepping in, he hears voices coming from inside. The sound of a heated argument fills the air. 2 men stand inside. One is tall and strong-looking. His name is Wonchul. The other is a younger man, clearly uncomfortable, named Park Chelsu. Wonchul grabs Chelsu by the collar. His voice is loud and filled with anger. He complains about the kind of work Chelsu has arranged for him. Chelsu tries to stay calm. His voice is shaky as he explains that it's been a slow month and there haven't been many jobs available. He says he's doing his best. Wonchul doesn't care. He talks over him, saying the guild master is too soft and that Chelsu should at least find leftovers from other guilds. Chelsu tries again. He says he has been trying, and that he only offers jobs he thinks they'll help. But Wonchul snaps again, shouting that being a guard at some event is nothing but a joke. He says it's humiliating and refuses to accept it. At that moment, both of them notice Lee standing nearby. The tension drops quickly. Wonchul lets go of Chelsu and walks over with a change in his tone. His voice is friendly now. Wonchul looks Lee up and down. He mentions that, like Lee, he is also now awakened. He smiles and extends a hand, introducing himself as Lee Workle. Lee looks at Wonchul's outstretched hand, but his expression stays cold. His eyes show no warmth. He tells Wonchul that they are not close enough to be acting friendly. The words are sharp but calm. No need to pretend. Without another glance, Lee walks past him and heads straight toward Park Chelsu. His steps are steady. His voice softens a little when he greets Chelsu. It has been a long time since they last met. Chelsu looks surprised but happy. He waves back and asks why Lee is here. Hearing this, Wonchul twists with anger. The smile he wore earlier disappears completely. His tone turns loud and hostile. He demands to know if Lee has lost his mind, acting like their past never happened. He speaks with rage, asking if Lee really forgot everything just because of a polite greeting. He threatens to remind Lee what their relationship was really like. Lee doesn't reply right away. His mind drifts back to a painful memory, one from school. They were just kids back then. Lee had awakened a minor steel controlling power and was trying to show it to his classmates. The ability was weak, but he had been proud of it. He wanted to share that moment, but the reaction had not been what he expected. Wonchul had been furious. He couldn't stand the idea of Lee having a power. His voice was full of disbelief and anger. He had demanded that Lee show more, saying the power looked too weak to be real. Then he mocked the idea of awakening, saying anyone could pretend to be one with such a useless skill. Before Lee could respond, a fist hit his face. The blow was hard and full of rage. Lee fell to the ground and grabbed his cheek. His eyes were wide, not just from the pain, but from the shock of being attacked like that. Wonchul had stood over him, shouting insults. He had called Lee a loser. He said someone like Lee had no right to talk about being awakened. The threat was clear. If Lee ever claimed that again, things would get worse. Standing there now in front of the Hope Guild, Lee remembers it all clearly. Nothing about Wonchul's anger surprises him. It's the same as before. The face might be older, but the hatred is unchanged. Wonchul clenches his teeth, the anger in his eyes growing sharper. His voice turns loud and mocking as he throws more insults at Lee. He calls him a tin can pilot, pretending to be strong. His words carry the same arrogance from their school days. He threatens to beat Lee again, just like in the past, and promises to make him beg for his life like before. Now a C-ranked player with the fighter trait, Wonchul holds a strong place in the Hope Guild. Many see him as their top talent. His confidence grows with every word. Park Chelsu steps forward quickly, panic on his face. He reaches out and grabs Wonchul's arm, trying to calm him down. His voice shakes as he pleads with him to stop. But Wonchul shrugs him off and yells at Chelsu to leave the room unless he wants to get dragged into the mess. Lee watches from the side, completely still. His voice cuts through the tension with calm defiance. He tells Wonchul to go ahead and try. The words are clear and steady, shocking both Wonchul and Chelsu. For a second, even Wonchul can't believe what he just heard. Lee's eyes grow colder. His voice is firm, without hesitation. He repeats the challenge. If Wonchul thinks he can kill him, then he should do it now. Wonchul's rage hits its peak. He shouts more curses and raises his fist to strike. His body rushes forward with full force. But in the next moment, he freezes. His punch never lanes calm. His hands don't even move, but the space around Wonchul changes. In an instant, sharp objects appear, metal pieces floating in the air. A steel pen nib hovers near Wonchul's eye. A knife rests just above his foot, ready to slice through the muscle. Around them, every metal weapon nearby, knives, tools, shards, now points at Wonchul from all sides. Wonchul's body tenses. He doesn't move, knowing even a small twitch might cause serious damage. Lee speaks again, his voice quiet but heavy. He tells Wonchul that he might not win this fight completely, not today. But he can still do enough damage to ruin him, enough pain to make him feel like he was attacked by an entire military squad. The warning is clear. Lee may not take his life, but he can end Wonchul's future as a close combat fighter in one move. Suddenly, a new voice enters the room. A man rushes in, calling out to Wonchul, reminding him they need to leave right away to make it to the event on time. The moment he looks around, confusion spreads across his face. The atmosphere feels thick, and the tension in the room is still heavy. Lee immediately changes. The steel weapons drop the ground and his expression softens. His body language shifts, now showing an apologetic look. He lowers his head and pretends to beg for Wonchul's forgiveness. Chelsu is surprised by the sudden change. Wonchul, most of all, looks confused. He can't believe what Lee is doing. Then Lee steps closer and hugs him. But in that brief moment, Lee leans in and whispers something that makes Wonchul freeze. Lee quietly tells him that he knows the truth, how Wonchul was kicked out of the White Tiger Guild. On their very first mission, Wonchul lost control, wet himself and ran away because of fear. That memory was supposed to be buried. Wonchul's face drains of color. He stares at Lee, shocked, and asks how he found out. Lee smirks slightly and reminds him that he has a big mouth too. Secrets don't stay hidden forever. Before turning away, Lee gives a final warning. He tells Wonchul that fighting a low-ranked F-class in front of everyone wouldn't look good for him. People would talk. So, Lee claims he only acted that way to help Wonchul save face, and then coldly tells him to get lost. After Wonchul storms out, Lee sits down with Chelsu. He gives Chelsu a list of company stocks and tells him that these will rise sharply in the near future. Chelsu stares at the list, stunned. The names seem random at first, but when he thinks it through, his eyes widen. If those numbers are right, the money they'll make would change everything. Later, under the blazing noon sun, Wonchul stands at his post, guarding the event. Other guards stand beside him, looking just as exhausted. The heat makes the job worse, but something else eats away at Wonchul more than the sun. His mind still burns from the earlier encounter. Rage builds until he suddenly snaps, yelling and cursing under his breath. The people around him flinch from the sudden outburst. A supervisor hears the noise and walks over. His face looks annoyed. He comes straight to Wonchul and demands to know what's going on. He mocks him, calling him the team leader and questions if he even knows the alphabet. The man shouts at him to remember the zones and tells him to stop acting clueless. His voice is harsh, and his words are full of disgust. Wonchul stays silent, unable to talk back. The anger and shame from earlier now mix with fresh humiliation. The supervisor keeps shouting at Wonchul, blaming him for not following orders, repeating the same instructions again and again. The words hit harder than needed. Each sentence feels like another insult, another blow to Wonchul's pride. Suddenly, the pressure reaches its limit. Wonchul's fist flies. One punch lands on the supervisor's face, then another, and another. His fists move without stopping, hitting again and again. The ground under them cracks from the force. Pieces of asphalt break apart, scattering across the road. Blood starts to spill, staining the pavement. The supervisor's face becomes a mess. He can't fight back. Wonchul's rage pours out through every hit, all of it meant for someone else. The real anger isn't about the job. It's about Lee. After the beating, Wonchul stands over the broken man. His face is splattered with blood, some his own, most not. His chest rises and falls quickly, his breath heavy. Turning to his men, he gives a new order. They must track Lee Hyeonuk. Wherever he is, they need to find him. With blood dripping from his face, Wonchul speaks through clenched teeth. He shouts, there is no mistake. He's coming for Lee, and he plans to bring real trouble to him. Park Cheol-soo stands as the quiet but respected leader of the Hope Guild. Unlike others who rely on strength or flashy skills, he belongs to the analyst class. His talent lies in seeing patterns, reading the field, and making smart decisions. In time, he'll become the one who leads the rediscovery of rank-up abilities, something the world once ignored. He also holds a special place in Lee's past. He is the one who once helped Lee unlock his potential. After hearing the list of future stock picks from Lee, Cheol-soo raises questions. His reaction is calm, but careful. A man suddenly appears with knowledge that could bring life-changing wealth. Doubt is only natural. To earn his trust, Lee pulls out 3 name cards, one from Blue Flower Guild, another from the Black Tiger Squad, and the last from AMT. The names carry weight. Each of these groups is known for their influence and strength. Cheol-soo looks at the cards and begins to wonder. His first thought is that one of these groups must be scouting Lee. The names are too big to ignore. They wouldn't approach just anyone. Someone with that kind of attention must be important. When asked directly, Cheol-soo gives a clear answer. Yes, he trusts Lee. The only thing hidden is the source of Lee's knowledge. Everything else Lee has said checks out. Nothing feels false. To add to that, Lee shares something personal. He shows the conversation between himself and the battalion commander, the moment he was offered a chance to become a commissioned officer. The message is clear. Lee is not making things up. He is connected, capable, and serious. Lee then shifts the talk towards something even more meaningful. He says he wants Cheol-soo to handle his investments. Without hesitation, he hands over everything he has, 20 million won. It's not a huge amount, but Lee explains it's all the money left behind by his parents. It's everything he owns. Cheol-soo stays quiet for a moment. The weight of the act sinks in. He realizes Lee isn't just trying to make money. He is showing real trust. This isn't business, it's something deeper. In Lee's past life, there had been a moment when he had nothing left. His future looked like a dead end. Everyone had turned their backs. But Cheol-soo had stayed. He had comforted him and reminded him that their talents would one day be noticed. He had given Lee hope. Now Lee is not returning a favor. He is repaying a debt of the heart. This is his silent way of saying thank you for the kindness he received when no one else believed in him. Lee's thoughts turn toward the future again. A time is coming when humanity will make contact with beings from other worlds, creatures who do not only fight but also speak and share. These otherworldly beings will bring technology that changes everything. That knowledge will become a key part in humanity's fight against the gates and waves that continue to threaten the world. Lee knows this change is not far away. He must move ahead of everyone else. The technology, the materials, the skills, they will only go to those who reach first. One type of being stands out in his mind, the dwarves. Known for their craftsmanship, their weapons and tools are unmatched. To get their knowledge, Lee must find someone who can communicate with them. A person who can earn their trust and bring their skills into the human world. That goal takes him to Yeongdeungpon's blacksmith alley. This becomes the second step in his long preparation. If he succeeds, he will begin work with the 7 legendary dwarven artisans and create his first master-grade weapon. But before that can happen, he must find the hidden geniuses, future master blacksmiths, before the villains do. The alley smells of fire, metal, and sweat. Shops stand in narrow rows, some old and some barely standing. Lee walks through them, unaware that a stranger watches him from a distance, following his steps quietly. He enters a small, cluttered blacksmith shop. The sound of hammering fills the air. Inside, a man looks up briefly before going back to his work. His voice is cold. He doesn't want to talk. He tells Lee to stop wandering and only look at what's already made. The man is Kang Jung-do. His clothes are covered in soot, and his workshop is full of sharp, half-finished tools. He once belonged to the official blacksmith's guild but was thrown out. His strange habits and rough behavior made him too hard to manage. Few want to work with him now. Lee then notices the weapon the man is shaping. It's rough and unpolished. A long spear, javelin-shaped, made from orichalcon, a rare and powerful metal. At first glance, it looks incomplete, but Lee knows exactly what it is. That crude spear is not ordinary. One day in the future, it will become the weapon that pierces the heart of Terex, the dragon feared across worlds. That single strike will go down in history. Now, standing in this run-down shop, Lee understands why this place, with all its broken shelves and rusted tools, is where the first master-grade item begins. Not in a famous guild hall, but here in a workshop forgotten by most. Just then, a girl walks into the workshop and throws a rude comment at Lee, calling him crusty without hesitation. Her tone is playful but sharp. Artisan Kang Jung-do quickly scolds her for the insult, reminding her that Lee is still a customer. She fires back without missing a beat, pointing out that her master calls people the same thing anyway. Lee watches her calmly, a small smile forming on his lips. He knows who she is, not just some rude girl. She is Kang Bik-sul, his future comrade, and one of the greatest blacksmiths the world will ever see. 4 years from now, after the death of her master, she will rise beyond anyone's expectations. She will carry on Jung-do's legacy and even surpass it, becoming a true master. In this moment, though, she is still young, rough around the edges, and driven by a single passion: money. She scans Lee from head to toe, and takes notice of the fabric of his clothes, the fine equipment on his belt, and the slight glow of rare materials. This makes her attitude shifts in an instant. The sarcasm disappears and her tone becomes sweet and eager. Now she sees not a poor wanderer but a real customer. Her smile turns wide, and her voice becomes cheerful. Lee chuckles inwardly. That greedy spark in her suits her future self well. It reminds him of the dwarves she will one day work alongside. Their love for materials, gold, and crafting lives deep in her. Now that she is focused on him, Lee sees a path forward. Attention can turn into trust. Trust can build into partnership. He places a large order, spending nearly 18 million won in one go. The list includes rare and strange materials, poisonous magical metals, mystical tungsten alloy beads, and other high-level crafting goods. Her eyes sparkle with joy. A customer like this is rare. Artisan Kang Jung-do watches in disbelief. He mutters about how none of the materials make sense for a non-mage. To him, it looks like a waste. He doubts whether Lee even knows how to handle such dangerous items. Bik-sul brushes him off, calling him an old man and tells him to stop overthinking. Her excitement blocks out everything else. She believes that Lee must have a reason. Lee doesn't explain anything. He just nods with satisfaction and says the order is exactly what he needed. His words are simple, but his eyes carry purpose. Before leaving, he promises to return and trade often. The foundation is now laid. The second step of his preparation has begun. After saying goodbye to Bik-sul, Lee walks away quietly. He knows their paths will cross again. In the future, she will return to the battlefield by his side. A small weight rests on his heart. He feels sorry that he will need to call her back into danger. But this time, he makes a silent promise to himself. He will protect her no matter what. Far behind him, a stranger keeps a close watch. That unknown figure follows Lee to his motel and waits outside, hidden in the shadows. Inside the room, Lee begins the most painful part of his training. Time is running out. The seal station gate looms closer with each passing day. He must be stronger before that happens. His goal is simple: raise his poison resistance and increase the weight of metal he can control. He prepares poison, enchanted metal, and consumes it carefully. With every bit he takes in, his resistance rises. It is slow but steady. To make the process faster, he uses his new skill, Breath Room. He sets the internal furnace to its highest level, pushing the absorption rate to an extra 250%. The result is instant and brutal. Pain strikes deep inside his body. The system floods him with warning messages. Muscle spasm. Sweat pours from his face. Still, he endures. His hands shake, but he refuses to stop. He knows what is coming, and he cannot afford to be weak when it arrives. 2 days pass. Outside, the stalker finally returns with Wonchul. The man points to the motel and reports that Lee has not left the room in 2 full days. Inside, Lee finishes his preparation. The pain leaves him exhausted, but the results speak for themselves. His poison resistance reached tier 2. Not as high as he had hoped, but enough to help. The biggest change is in his metal control. The weight jumps to 17,499 grams. A massive leap. Now he can carry and manipulate up to 60 daggers at once with ease. His sense is sharpened too. He can now detect small amounts of metal up to 500 grams from as far as 135 meters away. There is more. During this painful training, something awakens. He gains a new trait skill, Metal Smash. It is a rank D ability that allows him to break down metal itself. With this, he can crush weapons and armor directly. Any enemy relying on metal gear is now at risk of being disarmed instantly. The presence of metal near the door alerts Lee immediately. A small but clear signal moves through the air, and he knows someone is trying to break in. That metal belongs to Wonchul. No one else would come crashing into his room with such reckless force. The door bursts open, but Lee doesn't even blink. Wonchul steps in, expecting fear or confusion. Instead, he finds calm. Lee stands firm, already aware of who it would be. Without anger, he tries to reason with him. Being a soldier means living by rules, and attacking without cause can bring serious trouble. But none of that matters to Wonchul. Wonchul doesn't listen. His voice rises in anger. His fists clench. He rushes forward shouting and throws a strong punch. Lee doesn't move away. His arm hardens into steel just in time, and the blow lands with a hollow thud. The strike stops cold. Wonchul stares in disbelief. His voice stutters with shock. Something about Lee feels different, too strong, too unnatural. Lee suggests they take the fight outside. The room is small. Innocent people are nearby. A battle here could hurt someone. But Wonchul ignores the warning and launches another attack, still believing Lee is just pretending. Lee tells Wonchul that 2 days ago, it would have been a bluff. But now, things have changed. His training, his pain, It all made him stronger. Wonchul attacks again, a fast kick aimed at Lee. But Lee moves smoothly, dodging the blow and returning one of his own. His fist hits Wonchul in the stomach. The larger man stumbles back, wind knocked out of him. Lee looks at him, asking quietly why he is going this far. But no answer comes. Just rage. Wonchul activates a strange skill, and his leg starts glowing red faintly with magic. Lee gives one last warning, urging him to stop before anyone nearby gets hurt. But nothing reaches Wonchul anymore. To protect the building and the people inside, Lee turns and runs toward the window. Wonchul follows. Just before the next strike lands, Lee jumps. The kick hits him mid-air, and his body crashes through the wall, flying outside. Debris falls behind him. The wall of the room collapses. The air fills with dust and shattered pieces of brick. Wonchul doesn't stop. His rage blinds him. He leaps out after Lee, shouting threats, his voice filled with fury. His goal is clear. He doesn't want to win. He wants to crush Lee. Lee turns both his legs into metal using his body transformation ability. Then, by controlling the metal in his own legs, he creates a clever skill chain. This lets him float in the air, just enough to dodge Wonchul's attacks. His movements are not as smooth as they were in his past life, but this new method still gives him good control over his body. The two of them clash outside the building. Their fight causes a scene, and many civilians start gathering around, making the situation more difficult. Wonchul becomes frustrated because Lee keeps dodging everything without fighting back. He demands a proper fight. But Lee continues to stay calm, avoiding all his kicks. People in the area have already called the police. With so many eyes watching, Lee knows he cannot go all out. Any serious move could hurt someone nearby. On top of that, any trouble could also ruin his future plans involving the Sil Station gate. Wonchul soon realizes that Lee is holding back because of the crowd. In response, he threatens to clear out the civilians himself. He turns his attention to the nearby building, ready to attack it. Lee immediately steps in between, stopping him from going any further. He reminds Wonchul that there are innocent people inside, but Wonchul doesn't care. His mind is filled with anger and a desire for revenge. In that moment, Wonchul charges straight at Lee again. Lee finally makes a decision. He no longer sees any reason to hold back. His days of playing around are over. He activates a new skill, Metal Crush, and targets Wonchul's armored shin guard. The effect is immediate. The armor along with Wonchul's leg is destroyed in an instant. Wonchul falls to the ground, no longer able to stand. Fear takes over him completely as Lee calmly walks toward him. Lee looks down at the injured Wonchul and demands to know the real reason behind all of this. He expects something deeper, maybe jealousy, maybe fear, but the answer he gets is disappointing. Wonchul simply says that he did it because Lee annoys him. There is no great reason or hidden story, just childish anger. This answer leaves Lee frustrated. He had thought there might be something more. But now he sees clearly that people like Wonchul, who act out of pride and superiority, are dangerous. They enjoy their power too much and never think about the damage they cause. In Lee's eyes, such people are not fit to be players. They always end up becoming villains in the end. Anger builds up inside Lee. A sharp piece of metal on the ground starts to float as he controls it with his ability. The blade points straight at Wonchul's face. Lee warns him, making it very clear that he should never show his face again. This is not just about today. Lee is drawing a line that must not be crossed again. He then steps back. His mind returns to what truly matters. He cannot waste energy on someone like Wonchul. There are still comrades waiting to be saved and true villains that must be stopped. He pushes his anger aside and reminds himself of his real goals. By now, police sirens fill the airs. Several cars arrive and officers rush onto the scene. The crowd steps back as Lee is calmly taken into custody. He does not resist. At the police station, he is brought before the awakened task force and gives his statement. He explains that he only acted to stop Wonchul, who was endangering civilians. Witnesses from the scene confirm his words, saying the same thing. One of the officers is surprised that Lee walked away without any injuries. For someone so low-ranked, facing a known violent player like Wonchul should have ended badly. The officer thinks Lee got lucky and blames the damage on a broken shin guard. Later, Lee is released without any charges. His F-rank status works in his favor. Nobody expects someone so weak to be a real threat. He steps out of the station just as a new report comes in about the damaged armor. The results are shocking. The tests show that the armor was completely fine before the fight. No signs of malfunction or weakness. This means only one thing. Lee, a simple F rank, managed to crush armor made for a strong C rank. And he did it without even getting a single scratch. The people at the station are stunned. Lee has just done something nobody thought possible. Lee moves quickly through the city, heading straight for Seal Station. His speed is intense, his mind focused. In his past life, this event had only reached him through the news on TV. He still remembers the broadcast clearly. The death toll of civilians stranded at the gate was reported at 7:45. The anchor had called it one of the worst disasters in history, second only to the early waves of gate-related attacks. The screen had shown chaos, emergency crews, smoke, and people crying in the streets. That tragedy had shaken the country. The public had reacted strongly, especially experts and civil organizations who began to question how the system had failed so badly. They demanded answers. Their voices grew louder, accusing the gate response system of being flawed and unprepared. Lee now thinks about all of that, but this time he is not watching it on a screen. He is part of it. This version of the gate is not opened yet, and he is running straight into it. He knows very little about how this event plays out in real life. All he has is what he saw on the news years ago, and that isn't enough. The lack of solid information makes him uneasy. Only 8 minutes remain before the gate opens. His eyes scan the area. His body is ready, but his mind isn't sure. He questions if his current growth is enough. Part of him wants to cause a scene, to force the civilians to leave quickly. But he holds back. There is a hidden villain here. If that person slips away now, Lee might lose the one chance he has to stop the future from turning into a nightmare. Every second passes with growing pressure. 6 minutes left. Then 5. By the time only 2 minutes are left, his heart pounds. Every nerve is tense. He knows this moment could decide everything. Suddenly, a voice breaks through the noise. It's loud, familiar, and full of frustration. He turns and sees her. Sergeant Choi Seonha, the vice platoon leader. She is out of breath, clearly having run to catch up with him. Her face is red and sweat drips down her forehead. She says she has been running all over trying to find him. The entire unit has been in panic since last night. Everyone heard that Lee was taken to the police station, and no one knew where he went after that. Lee asks how she even knew he was here. Seonha quickly reminds him of something he had said earlier, that he had plans at Cell Station on the final day. She scolds him for not answering his phone and making things harder for everyone. Hearing her words, Lee freezes for a moment. Something feels off. In his past life, Sergeant Choi Seonha was never at the Seoul Station Gate incident. This is new. He never saw her near this place during the tragedy. Her sudden appearance makes him wonder. Could the changes he's made already be shifting the timeline? Could this be one of the results? He gives a short answer, saying his phone got crushed. There's no time for a full explanation. His eyes shift toward the station clock. The second hand continues to move forward. Just 1 minute remains. The worst gate in the world is about to open. His heart beats faster, but his face stays calm. Seonha still doesn't understand. She wants answers. She presses him hard, asking why he was at the police station, and demands a full explanation using the classic 5 Ws and 1 H, but Lee stays silent. His thoughts are elsewhere now. Every second counts. He knows he can't afford to waste even a moment. In frustration, she calls out to him again, raising her voice, but something unexpected happens. Lee suddenly drops his bag on the ground. A loud clatter follows as dozens of alloy beads spill out across the pavement, rolling in every direction. Everyone around them stops and stares. Even Seonha is stunned. Her voice rises in disbelief, trying to make sense of what just happened. She scolds him again, saying that this isn't the place for something like this, and demands to know what he is doing. Lee doesn't answer her questions. Instead, he looks her in the eyes and tells her to be ready. She needs to run to where the gas masks are stored once he gives the signal. His tone is serious, but his words only confuse her more. She has no idea what he's planning. Suddenly, the sky above the station begins to ripple. A strange, glowing gate opens in midair, right above Seoul Station. A massive monster drops from the gate and slams into the building, sending shockwaves through the area. The crowd screams. Panic spreads like fire. Lee turns towards Seonha and gives her the signal. The moment has arrived. I hope that you liked today's video, and if you did, hit that like button as today's goal is 1,500 likes. Comment next part down below for the next part. Also, consider subscribing with the notification bell on to get notified as soon as a new video drops onto the channel. You can also join the channel to support me financially and watch videos before public release. I'll meet you in the next video. Until then, thanks for watching.